Hi, and if you would like to join the program today, 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840, the number to call. The program is Focal Point. The network is AFR Talk. My name is Brian Fisher. Glad to entertain your phone calls, 888-589-8840. Talk about anything that we have addressed in the program today, the difference between Islam and Christianity. We have talked about the IRS not wanting to participate in Obamacare. We've talked about Jay Carney, speaking for President Obama, calling the Benghazi and IRS scandals phony scandals, despite the fact you got 4 dead people in Benghazi. Conservative groups obviously targeted by the IRS. That's a phony scandal, according to the president. And by the way, I got to clarify something. Rob called me on this. A divot is what you take in the fairway. It's just called a ball mark when it's on the green. And so a divot is what you take with an iron in the fairway because you have to hit down on the ball and you're going to take a little bit of a divot. So a ball mark is what happens when you take a good swing, you leave a divot, and your ball actually lands on the green. So Jeff and Rob Westy, they're familiar with divots. They've created a lot of those. It's the ball mark part that they have less familiarity with. And Rob tells me my hole is getting deeper, so I had better move on. Let's see where I want to go. Well, let's just go ahead and grab some phone calls. We got some people calling in, so let's go right to the phones, 888-589-8840, before we pick up some new content. And once again, don't forget that we're going to have Roger Wicker on. Senator Roger Wicker from the state of Mississippi will be on at the bottom of the next hour. We're going to talk with him about Ted Cruz and Mike Lee and their plan to defund Obamacare in the upcoming vote on the continuing resolution. And I want to hear from Senator Wicker about why he originally signed the letter committing himself to this course of action, then has taken his name off the letter, where he stands on the whole issue of defunding Obamacare through the continuing resolution, that vote coming up in the end of September when everybody gets back from their August recess. And by the way, on the immigration issue, I got a story in the stack, maybe get to it later. John Boehner is slow walking immigration. You know the reason he doesn't want to get a vote on immigration before the August recess? Because he does not want to face our wrath at town hall meetings. He's explicitly admitted it. He knows how unpopular this is with grassroots conservatives, with grassroots Republicans. We do not want amnesty. We want border security, period. We're now discovering that, remember the vandal that vandalized all of the monuments in D.C., the Lincoln Memorial and the National Cathedral? An illegal alien was doing that. Got another story about a crime committed by an illegal alien who may not even be able to be deported, guilty of child pornography. Can't be deported because he can be able to claim refuge under the DREAM Act. So we want border security, period. Let's get the border sealed up. Let's build a double-layer security fence along the southern border before we do anything else, because we've got enough problem with vandals. We don't need to be importing vandals. We've got enough trouble with child pornography in the United States without importing child pornographers. So we want border security. And Boehner says, look, I know, he's basically admitting, look, I know where the base is at. I know where the base is at on immigration. They're not with us. They don't want what we're for. They don't want amnesty. They don't want a path to citizenship. And so we're just not even going to bring it up for a vote because we know we will get nailed to the floor at town hall meetings in August if we move this thing forward. And Paul Ryan is out there saying, look, I'm perfectly willing to ignore the Hastert rule. This is Paul Ryan, perfectly willing to ignore the Hastert rule to get a vote on amnesty. He's a pro-amnesty guy. He's a Marco Rubio permanent Democratic majority amnesty guy now. And the Hastert rule, remember, says when Denny Hastert was Speaker, I'm not going to bring a bill to the floor of the House unless it has a majority of support in members of my own caucus. Unless a majority of the Republicans in the House of Representatives support this bill, I'm not even going to bring it to the floor. Now, John Boehner 3 times has brought very, very important pieces of legislation to the floor, despite the fact that a majority of his own caucus opposes it. So John Boehner has been working with the Democrats against the interest, the principles, and the preferences of his own party, the people in his own party, the elected representatives of the people in his own party. And now Paul Ryan says, hey, I'm perfectly willing to dump that Hastert rule. If the only way we can get amnesty through the House is to set aside the Hastert rule and bring a bill to the floor that we know is opposed by the majority of the Republicans here, I am perfectly willing to do it. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Paul in Dallas-Fort Worth, the Metroplex. Paul, welcome to Focal Point. What's on your mind?
Yes, I want to point out the obvious. I think Jay Carney's remarks is an absolute confirmation that there is real damaging substance to both Benghazi and the IRS. And I say that because if you go back to as both of those items came to the forefront, the administration and the president and even Jay Carney was saying basically the same thing. Wow, this is a terrible tragedy. We're really shocked. We're really concerned. Full investigation. We're going to really look into this. Okay? Now fast forward to, hey, we've got more important things to worry about now, which is another way of saying, you know, when we gave you the soft shoe and the smoke screen about how concerned we are and how troubled we are and how much we're going to investigate this, well, apparently you guys aren't going away, and apparently this is going to still be looked at. So now we have to shift to the, Nixon-Watergate approach of, hey, the country has far more important things to do. But I've got news for Barack Milhouse Obama, is that this is not going to work. And I hope that Darrell Issa and everybody else takes this for what it is, a vindication that they need to dig in harder and get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Good call, Paul. I appreciate that. It's like, it's almost like for Barack Obama, the economy is a bright, shiny object, and he's hoping he will be able to distract us, to take our eyes off of these scandals with the IRS, the NSA. Got a story today from the London Guardian about the NSA. That's the National Security Agency, their surveillance tool. It's called X-Keyscore. This thing collects nearly everything a user does on the internet. This is from today's London Guardian. A top-secret National Security Agency program allows analysts to search with no prior authorization through vast databases containing emails, online chats, and the browsing histories of millions of individuals, according to documents provided by whistleblower Edward Snowden. Training materials for this X-Keyscore program boast that the program covers, quote, nearly everything a typical user does on the internet, including the content of emails, websites visited, and searches, as well as their metadata. Now, they're saying, hey, we don't actually go in there and search through any of that unless we get a warrant, but we have collected it. It's at our disposal. We're in possession of it, and that is a flat violation of the Fourth Amendment. We are supposed to be secure in our persons, papers, and effects apart from a search warrant. They've got no right to collect that kind of data on us, ladies and gentlemen, but there they are out there doing it nonetheless. That's why I'm with Rand Paul on that issue. Chris Christie saying, yeah, we need the surveillance. We got to collect this stuff. Even Michelle Bachmann saying we got to do it. I'm with Rand Paul on this. I'm fine with you guys collecting that kind of data, but you got to have a search warrant first. I'm not going to be in favor of this willy-nilly kind of massive data gathering of innocent American citizens who have done nothing wrong, where they have engaged in no suspicious activities, absolutely no reason for them to come to the attention of the federal government. That's just plain wrong, and it violates the Fourth Amendment. Let's go to Monty in Culpeper, Virginia. Monty, welcome to Focal Point. What's on your mind?
Brian, I didn't even know if I would get through, and I apologize for taking the other place, but you're one of my absolute favorite radio people with AFR, and I just wanted to support you on something. Presley O'Bannon is a relative of mine, and he's the guy, went back to Tripoli and kind of cleaned the clocks of the Muslims when they were preying on the caravans there. But I would love for Barack Obama's regime and all of Congress to have a law that when you become a senator or a House of Representatives, that you must spend a minimum of 2 years of military, not in the officers' training, but in the NCOs, the non-commissioned officers. And you could also, Brian, take all the aliens coming across the line, and since they want to have citizenship, they too must have a minimum of 2 years in the military, and that way you'd never have to have a selective service.
Yeah. All right, well, that's an interesting idea, Monty. You know, and they've basically got a similar thing in Israel, not with immigrants, but everybody in Israel's got to get some military training. Everybody there. I mean, even the women go through some kind of military training, but the males in particular in Israel, everybody's basically a part of the IDF, either formally or informally. So they don't have any selective service. I mean, maybe they have a volunteer army. Maybe the people that go through the training then can decide they want to make that a career or whatever. I'm not sure how that works, but I know that it's pretty widespread, that kind of training. You know, the only question I've got, Monty, and I appreciate what you're saying about illegal aliens serving in our military, but I have never supported the idea of a non-citizen serving as an enlisted member of our military, because I want people that are defending this country to be citizens of this country, to know that they've got an attachment, a devotion to this country. They're not just using military service for some other purpose, but they've got a real love of their country because they're citizens here, they're invested here. This is a country that they want to protect. And I understand we allow immigrants to serve, non-citizens to serve in the military, probably not going to change. I'm just not a big fan of that idea. But on the other hand, what you're saying, Monty, maybe if they do the compulsory service to training, maybe they will develop a love and an allegiance for the United States, and that might be good for us in the long run. All right, Monty, listen, I appreciate the call. Thank you for that. We'll be right back after the news. We'll talk a little bit more about this Obamacare stuff, what's coming up there, and get into more stuff. And we'll get into all that right after the news break. Focal Point, AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. Stay with us.